Andra, welcome to the MedTech World Podcast once again in the MedTech World ecosystem. Thank you for being with us and your team from EvoMed.
Thank you for having me.
Andra, so today we're going to have your insights on clinical adoption. You've been in both fronts, before as a clinician and now helping MedTech companies into adopting their technologies. So let's talk about it from your perspective before, as a clinician. How was the day by day of a clinician when a new technology was coming in?
So I was active in the field of ICU and emergency medicine. It's also something very close to my heart. I remember new technologies being brought in. Now I have like multiple examples in my mind, but I would give a concrete one. I had a shift on the ICU, and on that day we got a new monitoring system for the patients. And on paper, it looked amazing. Everyone was very, very excited. And then came my night shift, and one of the patients was deteriorating quite fast, and all the alarms went on, which of course increases more the tension that's already being built by the situation. Worst part being that we had to go through 3 steps to just state that, okay, we are aware of the alarm, it can be turned off. And that was the moment where I thought to myself, this will not work. I already felt the nurses being a bit melancholic about the old monitoring system that we had. And it's just disrupted our workflow. It just was those 3 steps that you had to go through just to acknowledge, okay, I know the alarm is on, please turn it off. It was a no-go.
Mm-hmm. What inspires you actually to make this jump from a clinician, day by day, hectic, and the emergency department is, I cannot even imagine how stressful it can be, to now being in the other side, helping companies to work together hand in hand with clinicians as well, because there's a gap indeed.
Yes, I still love being a physician. It's craved in my heart. It's gonna stay there forever. Although I came to realize that as a physician, you can save just so many lives. You're quite reduced as a number, but through MedTech, you can reach so many patients. You can improve their lives. You can save their lives. You can make a change, not for tens of people, but we're talking about thousands, maybe millions of people. And that was something that drove me to go also into MedTech, also to use the knowledge that I had as a doctor, helping founders bring their solution and it getting adopted.
MedTech companies invest in clinical validation, but when, again, coming back to the clinicians, when we talk about adoption, sometimes it actually doesn't work. So what is the gap in here? Is it a matter of a workflow problem, or is a trust problem? What is, from your clinician point of view, stopping kind of this smooth adoption sometimes?
So first of all, you have very different type of founders. You have founders who have a clinical background and they also understand what they are developing it for. You have founders that are more from the IT side and they put a lot of effort into the system, working smoothly, not so many bugs and so on and so forth. And you have the business type of people. I think it's very important to keep in mind that the hospital is not a quiet environment. Nothing is optimal. You have shortage of personnel very often. And I see a lot of times that solutions are being prepared for optimal conditions, where they also perform, of course, very good. But we don't have optimal conditions in hospitals, sadly. We have shortage of personnel. We have way too many patients on the ICU, on the emergency department, it's a matter of seconds that you need to react to save someone's lives. So it is a thing of workflow. For me, it was always important that a solution, first of all, is safe, doesn't disrupt my workflow too much, and also makes me still be somehow in control of what I'm doing. And I can also give a very good example to that. When the video laryngoscope was introduced in the hospitals, it was, for me, it was a wow moment. Okay, I was thinking about this. You can intubate patients not only faster but safer, and you're in control of what you're doing. It's that's one example that I can give to you.
And then when this adoption happens as well, before that, now that you are from the business side as well, how do you approach hospitals and all of the decision makers? How do you convince them that a technology is actually a good step to do?
Well, I think you need to think about it as parallel narratives, because you're going to talk to the clinicians about one thing. They're mostly interested, okay, is this going to help me in my daily life as a doctor? Am I going to have more time to invest in the patients, or is it going to take time away from me just to click some buttons to use your solution or not? For the administration, of course, they're very interested in the outcome. Okay, so what does this mean for the hospital? Does it mean we're gonna have an improvement in patient care? We're gonna be able to take care of more patients? It's gonna also maybe help the flow of patients in the hospital or not? So I think it's very important to not think of one narrative that fits them all, but to also understand that there are different partners that you're talking to and different interests. And you just have to formulate 4 narratives, also understanding where they are coming from.
Clinical validation, of course, is an important part in this process. What about the real world evidence? Is this, of course, it must be different depending on the medical devices that have been used already actually before. How do you approach this?
Well, real evidence proves that credibility is one, no? But the thing about trial data is the trial data gets you in the door, but then you have to face clinical reality. A lot of data is gathered in, as I said, quite let's call them ideal situations, which are sadly not mirroring the actual situations in the hospitals. So they're very important. Of course, it also gives you a feeling of safety. But you also need to consider that the moment you present a solution to a clinician, for example, they will not have the optimal conditions that you would be talking about in his everyday life.
Now, there's, of course, the topic everyone is talking about, which is AI and the challenges of AI. A lot of clinicians feel that there's definitely an offer out there to implement and to optimize their processes and their daily practice. But some of them are noise, right? So what is the difference between AI implementation that will actually change the clinicians and the patient's life at the end of the day?
I would say that clinicians are a bit overwhelmed with AI nowadays. It's a feature that you can find in a lot of solutions. Our CEO likes to call it augmented intelligence and not artificial intelligence, with a reason. So it's meant to help the physician, no? For a tool to cut through the workflow, it should be a bit, let's say, it invisible in the workflow or merging so perfectly with the other steps that you don't even notice it. So it shouldn't be disruptive. That is for sure. It should be specific in value. And especially if we're talking about hospitals, it should be reliable under pressure. I think that's the last test, the last barrier, how it performs under pressure. Is it reliable or not? Is it going to help you, or is it just going to put more stress on you, is gonna give you even more steps that you have to go through.
If you had the opportunity to sit down today with the founding team, building a clinical AI product, what are the advices that you would give them to actually close this gap that we're talking about?
I would maybe tell them to not obsess over the features, to think more about the workflow. I would encourage them to have a clinician on board, even if it's just advisory, a short period of time, just so they understand what they are designing it for, how the situation is actually looking like. Even maybe invite them to go and spend one day in an intensive care unit or emergency department. Also, they shouldn't confuse pilot success with adoption. That also happens very often. They get excited, but then clinical adoption doesn't happen. So that would be a few pieces of advice that I would give them.
And of course, when a company comes for help to your team, EvoMed, do you find actually ahead the whole process? You can tell this technology will actually be successful out there, or how can you spot the success or actually the failure of a company when they approach you?
Well, first of all, it's a green flag the moment that the developers, the founders, are not so in love with their solution that they are not very open to change, to adapting it a bit depending on what's needed. It is a green flag if they have a clinician on board or already discussed with a clinician before developing the product. And as I said, focusing on the workflow more than the features that they want to design for it. That is also something that I really encourage people. We say less is more, and that is also very true from a physician's point of view regarding the developing of an everyday life in the hospital.
Now let's talk about different markets. We had the pleasure to have EvoMed together with us in MedTech Malta and then MedTech Middle East. So let's talk about adoption in different areas of the world. What's your intake on this?
From our experience, there is indeed a need of researching and deciding which market you want to access first, because depending on the market, you have, of course, different regulations. Your investors are different or have different approach. Also, adoption in hospitals might be different or bring up different issues to you. So to give you an example, we have in Europe compared, let's say, to the GCC, we're slowly working our way towards digitalization. We are based in Germany, so I can tell you that in Germany, we are still not very far ahead, but we're working our way towards it. Compared to the GCC, where innovation is booming. So, of course, the competition would be also way bigger in the GCC compared to Europe. It's still, the regulations are a bit stiff in Europe, although I'm sure that everyone is working on also solving that. So it's definitely important to know what your market is, which market you want to access from the beginning. I think it's one of the crucial things that you need to know. And also a thing that I noticed, you have to have these parameters in mind from the start, and not them being as entities that have nothing to do with each other, but they're very interconnected.
Andra, you've been, again, from both perspectives, treating patients and now shaping strategies for companies. If there's one thing you believe about this industry that most people aren't willing to say out loud, what would be it?
I think so. I think it's the fact that a lot of companies think they're failing because of regulation or hospitals. In my experience, I think they fail because they don't truly understand the environment that they are building for. Of course, it's a tendency to blame clinicians for not for being resistant, for not wanting to use the solution. But in reality, and in my experience, clinicians are very hyped about what's new, are very interested in having also their workflow smoother, easier. It's just a matter of how you understand the environment that you are designing something for. I think it's crucial, and I think that clinicians aren't necessarily a barrier, but the products that are sometimes poorly designed.
Andra, thank you very much for being with us. And of course, if MedTech companies out there want to reach out to EvoMed, please tell us where they can find you.
You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on our company website, and I would be more than happy to help you to hear about your solution. As a physician, first and foremost, I'm excited about everything that's new, so don't hesitate to contact me.
Thank you very much once again, and we hope to see you soon.
Thank you.